Jeff, I'm not happy, I want a divorce." Although Jeff was a little shocked, he wasn't totally unprepared. They had been married for almost 20 years, but Honey had spent a lot of time lately talking to her friend and so-called marriage expert Miranda. Miranda's experience is based on the fact that she's been through 3 divorces. "Jeff, can you hear me? I want a divorce." "Yes, Dal, I hear you, but it's a very serious matter and I don't want to be hasty in my answer. I think I've been a devoted husband. I've been a good father. You haven't mentioned any problems in our intimate life, so I don't know anything about what's going on. But please tell me if the divorce was a recent event or if it had been building up for some time." Darlin replied, "Yes. Gradually I needed a little space, a little time to explore other opportunities, to meet other people. But ultimately we both had to agree to stop the divorce, but either party could proceed without the other's consent." Jeff realized that Honey didn't fully understand that he would have the same freedom as she did. Darlene hesitated, and Jeff objected, "I don't think that's right, but just in case, I'll file as well, so we'll be on the same page. Isn't that fair?" "I think," Honey stammered, "you mean you want a divorce? You've been a good husband, a good father, a good lover. I just want to experience a new and different life, spend some time with someone else. It might make me feel better. I just need some time. A legal separation will give me that freedom." "Honey, you need more than I can give you. That means I'm not good enough." "No, I don't have the papers yet. I'm going to go to J. Lewis. He did Miranda's divorce." So Honey confirms the source of her idea of seeking something more for herself from her marriage. "Well, I may ask my cousin Sally to handle my part of the divorce. I know you don't like Sally, but she's a really nice person. She's a hard-hearted lawyer who genuinely fights for her clients, whether they're men or women." Ironically, after the last family barbecue, probably because she was drunk, Sally volunteered to take care of the divorce attorney for me for free if I ever needed one. "I don't see why we have to do anything until the separation is over." Jeff explained that, "I think the purpose of the separation is to see what a divorce looks like, so we can decide if we really want one. And I'll tell you what, why don't we go to the kitchen and get a notepad and start planning everything we're going to do? I'm going to go make some coffee." And Jeff is getting out of bed and going to the kitchen, leaving Honey and Darlene to argue. Jeff continued, "There's so much to think about, it's hard to decide where to start, and I think we need to talk about the kids first. I don't see why we have to tell them so much. Couldn't we have waited 90 days? Maybe we don't have to tell them anything. But honey, how are you going to explain it to them when they ask why Daddy doesn't live here anymore, or why you don't live here anymore? First of all, it means we have to coordinate our dates. One of us might get mad at the other, and if one of us wants to go on a date one night and the other says it's inconvenient, we might think the other is trying to stop us from dating. In addition, the kids might guess or hear from someone else that we went out with someone else, and we have to tell not only the girls, but all of our relatives and friends, or they might think we're cheating on each other. Worst of all, no matter how much we explain it to the kids, I'm afraid they'll think it's their fault. We just need to make sure we say the same thing and really emphasize how much we love them. They are good kids and they will probably adapt eventually, although it may take some professional therapy. Also, if I live at home, you'll have to meet your man at his place or a fancy motel, and if you or I bring a lover home while the other one is home with the kids, that's not right. Obviously, this means that our cost of living will be reduced because we'll have to add my apartment rent and utilities on top of our current expenses. It meant we would have to cancel all of our joint accounts, savings accounts, and credit cards, and then file for child support and alimony, and there was so much to do until the first day, when Honey sat there stunned, and she didn't know what to say, and Jeff went on to say, I'm going to try to rent an apartment close to my workplace so that my daughters will have beds when they stay over on the nights that I have visitation rights. Unless the spouse and the family agrees to more. Jeff, I'd like you to date the girls more often. There's homework, sports games, and other activities they're used to you, and they both seem to enjoy spending time together. Honey, I'll be involved in their lives as much as I can, but you and your boyfriend should be willing to take on some of what I do. It's just a matter of practicality. The weeknight visitation would be difficult if I found someone else, who might have kids too, and I might have to help them with homework and extracurricular activities, and you might have to help your new husband with the kids, and there'd be the problem of clothes and toiletries having to be stored in two places, and the problem of school transportation because I might not live on their school bus route and it would be disruptive to their routines. And it wouldn't be easy for any of us, and it wouldn't be like Miranda promised it would be, honey. and she said that her husband would give up at the mention of divorce and offer to continue to do everything he was supposed to do for the family but also allow her to date other people. She hoped he would come. She wanted to use nicknames to scam her out of responsibility and part with her money. She was sorry honey, she's walking. She hoped he would come. She wanted to use nicknames to scam her out of responsibility and part with her money. She's sorry honey, I have to do a little more writing before I go to bed at night. Honey barely slept. She needed to talk to Miranda, tell her about Jeff's unexpected reaction. Miranda would know what to do next, and that confidence allowed her to finally fall asleep. She went back to the guest room and started breakfast. Once everything was ready, she looked at her notepad, and under the heading of liability items that needed to be changed were mortgage, homeowners insurance, gas, utilities, cable TV, cell phone, spam, internet security, car payments, car insurance, health insurance, dental insurance, Amazon Prime, LifeLock membership, LifeLight Medic, and so on. Jeff would be miserable having to give up his favorite places to go, Waffle House and Starbucks. She grinned, and then added her gym membership, the women's group she was involved in, and eating out more than once a week. He even listed the cost of some of the children's extracurricular activities, including the cost of uniforms and other necessary materials for the kids, which were not included in the calculations for her divorce plan. On another page, he made a list of things Darlene had to do, which included putting gas in the car, having the car serviced regularly, getting a mechanic, getting a plumber, getting a heating and air conditioning repair service, mowing the lawn, washing the car, buying groceries, and so on. I need to call Miranda before Jeff wakes up. Hello Miranda, it's Darling. We need to keep our voices down because Jeff is sleeping right next to us. How did it go last night? Miranda's voice expressed excitement and anticipation of a positive response from Darling rather than asking what he could do to make things better so I wouldn't divorce him. Jeff plans to rent an apartment and take care of just the girls every weekend, and he says we need to actually separate and act like we're really divorced so we can make a more informed decision about whether to divorce in 90 days. I hope you're right, Robert is worth it. Jeff hasn't done anything yet. I'll be strong, at least until I see what he's really going to do. Thank you Miranda. He's getting up. I have to go. Jeff, do you want coffee? Darlene asked nervously as her husband stumbled over to the coffee table and said, it wasn't a good idea to stay up late drinking coffee last night. I barely slept. Why don't you go to bed? I'm not sure I'm going to give up, honey. We're still married. I'm yours and only yours. Can't we act like husband and wife, at least until we're separated? Jeff, you always seem to forget that this is just a separation. We don't need a divorce. Relax and give me some time to find myself. I believe that we are staying married and it will be better than it was before. I wish I could believe that. I've decided to take a day off and Billy can supervise the alimony payments during the day so that I can kick off some of the splitting issues. And by the way, I'm going to have a lot more cash for both of us than I normally would, and you guys are going to need to use the cash until we can get our own credit and debit cards. Fortunately, we both have separate checking accounts, except for the large joint account. Robert came in to flirt as usual. He was tall with dark wavy hair and a smile that made the women resist unbuttoning their blouses, wishing he would stop and talk to them. Darlene was beginning to worry. She told Robert that they would soon be together in a more comfortable environment, but she would call him later today near the elevator when he left. Her worries about being separated from Jeff were replaced by memories of kissing and caressing Robert as they rode the elevator after he left for work over the past few months. She sat at the kitchen table and looked at her laptop again as Jeff added a few more items to the list. Then she noticed a new list called Possible Women Today with 2 columns for women who had already expressed interest in women, and she wondered if they were interested. It wasn't a long list, but the names in the first column shocked her. One of them was her sister Erica, and this Vicky babe called her right away. Hello Dahlia, what's the matter with you? How dare you steal my husband? Hey, slow down, girl, what are you talking about? Jeff made a list of women who told him they wanted to date him, and your name was on it. He showed you a list of women who wanted him. You're telling me there's trouble in paradise? Did you catch him in the act, or did he catch you making out with someone else? 90 days of separation before you decide if you want to stay married. It's okay. Obviously you have someone in mind, but I don't care. So you're telling me that you're gonna be legally separated soon, and if someone wants to spend the night with Jeff, there's not much you can do about it. You better stay away from him, or there's nothing you can do about it. And if you're legally separated, the problem is You brought this on yourself for so many years. You've been bragging about what a great provider he is, what a wonderful husband and father. Like I said, let me know as soon as you can. For the only time in our lives, I'm so glad to have my sister's help. Bye-bye." After the phone call, Darlene tried to calm herself down, but it didn't help. She looked at the list of women again and she saw Jenny. She was his secretary, a short single mother, absolutely beautiful, but almost 20 years younger than Jeff. There were 2 other women on the list. One of them was married, and the M next to her name probably meant it, and the other 2 names were other women who worked for Jeff. And even though he had a degree in psychology, he'd worked as a laborer in college, and he'd loved it, and he'd grown his business so much that he now had 3 teams under him. I don't know many other women who find him as attractive as Erica. I really didn't think you would date while we were apart. Maybe he already has someone in mind. Jeff walks into the house and sees his wife looking through a notebook, and he's pretty sure what the next topic of conversation will be. "Jeff, it looks like you didn't waste any time looking for someone to replace me, my dear sister. How could you? I just wanted to catch up with you. What's the point of picking a boyfriend? I don't have a boyfriend. I just want to explore some new relationships. What about Robert Turner?" "Turner? How do you know about Robert Turner? What are you going to do about it?" "I was at Walmart today and I ran into your boss's secretary, Sylvia, on my lunch break, and I must have looked puzzled because she explained that he goes to your wife's office several times a day and that they have lunch together every day." Darlene explained that Robert was a friend of yours from college and that you spent a lot of time together, so I'm thinking that Robert was at least one of the men you wanted to try out during your separation. Where are you at with your research? Well, Robert was just a friend, and we did almost nothing but talk, and I thought he might be someone I'd like to go out with, and he was very nice to me, and even when I wasn't at my best, he complimented me on how I looked. Was there anything in particular? Did you do anything I didn't want to see? Something his wife would object to. He's not married. Who told you he was married? What kind of woman do you think I am? You're not interested in a man. You want to meet Robert Turner. Yes, about his marital status. It says he's married to Cynthia with 2 sons. Trying to come up with an explanation quickly. Honey, it could be old information. Maybe he's divorced the kids, and I can't wait to go to see Robert after school. Johnny and Robert Jr. are important players on their high school baseball team and get to play in the state tournament. I swear he didn't tell me he was married. I wouldn't do anything to break up someone else's marriage. You don't seem to mind breaking up your own. If we decide to stay married after separation, we have to give each other a copy of our medical reports to make sure that neither of us has an intimately contagious disease. I'm not planning on dating anyone, since it's probably only for 90 days, but if I feel the need for intimacy, I can find a virtuous girl. Well, Darl, I promise I'll tell you what I've done today to help with the separation, and I've got a lot of catching up to do, most of which I'll have to do from scratch, and bank accounts, credit card accounts, and, as I've already told you, my secretary Jenny works at the Royal Arms as a night manager, and I'm not sure how much I'm going to need to do to help with this. The apartments are close to work, so I asked her about availability, and they have a 2-bedroom apartment. But she said that if I became an apartment maintenance specialist, I could get 50% off the rent, which means more money for you and the kids. You haven't signed the lease yet, have you? Do you remember we have 90 days left on the lease? If you play your cards right, you might be able to come back here. After Jenny found out I was divorced, she said she wanted me to ask her out. I was surprised at the age difference. I didn't know she found me attractive. I told her I was flattered, but the company rules state that there can't be any relationship between an employee and a manager outside of a professional relationship. Jenny said that she could get a job elsewhere as a secretary. If that's what she was going for, that's the reason I'm putting it. Reason for putting it on the list. Darlene had heat coming out of her ears, and she was reticent to say anything because things would get worse if she blurted out her thoughts without waiting for an answer from her. Darling, Jeff went on. Another piece of news that you should like very much. I've booked 2 vacations to Hawaii for 10. Hawaii. Oh Jeff, do you know how much I've been wanting to go to Hawaii? When you told me you wanted a divorce, I said we might not live to see our 20th anniversary. And when I tried to cancel the order and get a refund, they said it was so late I could only get a 20% refund. If you could give your new boyfriend an all-expense-paid trip to Hawaii, that would be a great start to your new relationship. But Jeff, I want to go to Hawaii with you. We can put off the breakup. In fact, I'm thinking of canceling the whole thing. Even if you canceled the divorce right now, I wouldn't be happy about it. You can't get back what you said you wanted. And you can't get back what I imagined you and Robert would have done when you weren't doing anything special. Thing when you did. Jeff then went upstairs to the guest room. Darlene was devastated. She only knew one place to turn, to Miranda. Her name was Honey. How are you, Miranda? Everything sucks. Jeff found the apartment. His skinny secretary was already flirting with him. My sister wanted to go out with him. He said I could use it to pick up my new boyfriend. What am I supposed to do now? Hey, what's the problem? You and Robert are going to have a wonderful time in the sunshine. Happy and incredible. No. I found out that Robert is married and his wife and kids are moving here in a few months, and he lied and said he booked the trip a long time ago just so you'd feel guilty and call off the divorce proceedings. Don't worry, with your hot body you're going to have boyfriends just as good or even better than Robert in no time, and a husband and a family too. Oh my God, I never thought he'd be so evil. So you want to pretend you've moved out? Don't worry, I'm just trying to move some stuff into the apartment so I don't scare the girls by moving too much stuff at once. Jenny said I could move some stuff before the first one because the apartment is empty. Miranda is an expert on divorces, and that's what she can do. Don't try to get to me by insulting Miranda. She's my backer, and she can point out the scan of your Hawaii ticket. You're making up this story just to get me to give up everything. It's not going to work. I've always thought I was the luckiest man in the world to have a beautiful woman like you, a wonderful companion to raise my children, and until recently a devoted wife and lover. I'm Jeff Sinclair. My wife's on the speakerphone right now, and now you can tell her about the trip. Hello Jeff, sorry you can't make it. I'm sorry you couldn't make it. Sounds like you really wanted to surprise your wife. Enjoy your vacation, honey. This is our 10, my husband and I have been there a few times. It's been great for our marriage. When did my husband start ordering this trip? Darlene was sure that it would expose Roos. Let's see, according to my records he called for the first time about 3 months ago, then chose this particular trip 2 months ago. He was a very loyal wife and lover. He chose and paid for this particular trip about 2 months ago. 2 weeks later, yesterday, he called to cancel and asked for money. I am sorry, I could only give him 20%, but I was pleasantly surprised. He said, go ahead, you will find someone else to go with you. I'll call you soon with your name. Darlene tried to imagine what Miranda would say based on this information. After a few seconds she realized, you think you lied to me again, don't you? You agree with Elle. Before I start talking about the divorce you're going to pretend that you're planning a trip to Hawaii. Cleverly, she was proud of herself for figuring this out without Miranda's help. Jeff sighed loudly and suggests talking to your parents. What do my parents have to do with this? Who do you think is going to watch the kids while we're gone? Let me give them a call. Darlene was shocked. No, you don't have to do that. I need a little time to think about it. Sorry, Dar, I was already on the phone. But Jeff's phone was answered by her mother. She saw the caller ID. Darlene, how are the kids? It's good to hear your voice. Hi, Mom. Darlene hesitated and said, Hi, Mom, this is Jeff. We're on speakerphone. Hold on, I'll call your dad too. Darlene and Jeff heard music in the background. Harold's voice. Darlene, it's Jeff. Harold and Jeff heard music in the background. Harold, it's Jeff. Honey, pick up the phone. Honey, how are you guys? What's going on? Harold said, without speaking. Dear, Jeff joined the conversation. Dear knows now, so you don't have to keep it a secret. Son, we're sorry you can't go. You didn't tell us why when you called this morning. It's disappointing to us because we were looking forward to having the kids with us for 10 days. We're sorry for Dear too because you can't go with her. We know she'd love to go on this trip, but she would rather go with you than with anyone else. Have you decided who you're taking, dear? I'm not sure, Harold. Do you remember? It was at New Year's, wasn't it? I'm almost sure it was 2 or 3 months ago. He said he wanted to give us advance notice so we could stock up on junk food. Those two really can eat anything and never seem to grow an ounce. Darlene's mom interjected, is something wrong with Darling? I'm not going to lie to your parents, they've always been honest and upfront with me. Mom, Harold, Honey told me last Sunday night that she wanted a divorce. C's on the other end of the phone said something nasty. Honey wants to help herself. That's not what I really wanted to say. I want to use this time to help me find myself, to explore new opportunities, to improve myself so I can be a better wife and mother. This is my daughter talking, she exclaimed. I know a liberal lie when I hear one. Darlene, do you have a boyfriend? I take it back, no divorce, no separation. Wait until everything calms down. Jeff, look at the crying. Darling, you need to pull yourself together. The girls will come home now. You think you can unilaterally declare that we won't get divorced because things didn't go the way you planned. You don't seem to understand that I have a say in the matter. After what I've seen of you over the past week, I'm not sure that giving up on the divorce is a good idea. I'll get a sleeping bag from the garage and spend the night in the condo. Jeff, please don't go. I'm sorry, you said it was fine before I mentioned wanting a divorce. Can't you just forget about it and go back to the way things were? You said you were happy. I'm happy, very happy, but I can't forget the way you said you weren't happy. I can't forget the way you said you were planning to cheat on me with Robert. I told you you've committed adultery. Sally told me it's easy for her to draw up the divorce papers because they're the standard terms of a divorce. I could even sue your boss for violating company policy. But this is too much. I need you to be able to take care of your daughters after the divorce. I love you, and you love me. What can I do to make it right? You said a divorce would be bad for both of you. Don't you want to avoid the pain? I promise to be the best wife in the world. I won't look at another man. I've given you almost 20 years of a wonderful marriage and 2 lovely children. Support your career even if it means you show up late and dirty. I'm proud of your success. Everyone makes mistakes. Please give me another chance, please. Jeff finally answered. I'll tell you what I'll tell you. I'll go to the condo with my suitcase and a sleeping bag, and I'm going to ask you to write down a few things. Your words and actions have hurt me more than you know, and if your answer is what I want, I'll consider canceling or at least postponing the divorce. I'll be back at 7 o'clock, and I'd like you to beg for forgiveness. Secondly, I'd like you to tell Robert to stop communicating with you, and if he continues to threaten you, what are you going to tell your wife? And tell him that I'm willing to sue him and your firm. Thirdly, I'd like you to list all the things you can do to make me feel proud of you and everyone's mistake. Please give me another chance. Third, I want you to list every reason you can think of why I should consider staying married to you. And finally, I want you to call Miranda and tell her that you never want to talk to her again, that it's not disgusting, and that if I ever hear Miranda say that I want to do it again. Do you understand what I'm asking of you? If you want us to have a chance to stay married, yes, honey, I think so. I'll be ready for anything. I'll see you at 7 o'clock. Jeff left with his suitcase. Darlene started rehearsing what she was going to say to Miranda from the end of her list. Listening to you is the worst decision I've ever made. If you ever see me at the mall or in a restaurant, please leave or I may not be held accountable for my actions. Honey, she's surprised at how good she feels after getting Miranda out of the way, and then she calls Robert and tells him what Jeff told him to say. She tells him that if he causes any more trouble, her husband can shut him up by calling his wife. Darlene was ready and she felt confident, but she was a little worried because Jeff was back in 5 minutes and had no luggage with him, and Darlene noticed that his face hadn't changed since he left that afternoon. I hope you can let it go, honey. Jeff looked at the list for a long time and he started to cry. Darlene also started to cry as he cried, but she took his expression of emotions as a positive sign. That impresses me, honey. Her heart was full of hope and she tried to hug him, but he signaled her to go back to her seat. Jeff said. Darlene was completely devastated. Her heart felt like it had been dropped hard on the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Her grief was at an all-time high. She said, I ruined my whole family's life. I'm the worst person in the world. I don't deserve to be alive. How could I have been so stupid? Jeff knelt down in front of her and whispered, now you know how I feel. Darlene was on the floor, sobbing, and he walked over to the door and paused, turned to her and said, am I right that during the separation we can see whoever we want to see? His wife found it hard to pull herself together, but she couldn't help but cry and continued, well, if we can see whoever we want to see, what are you doing Friday night? Yes, I think we have completely ruined our previous relationship, but we may have a chance to build a new one. Jeff replied. Darlene stood up and rushed towards Jeff. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please consider bookmarking and subscribing, and if you haven't done so yet, please feel free to share your thoughts on the events in the comments below.